Right, welcome back. Following the closure of masters' offices across the country, the Legal Practice Council is urging the public to report misconduct by legal practitioners. Last week, you'll remember the Department of Justice and Correctional Services closed the facilities for a day to allow the Specialised Investigating Unit to investigate allegations of maladministration, corruption and fraud. Among others, the masters' officers supervises the administration of deceased estates and insolvent estates. But to discuss this further, we're now joined in studio by Executive Committee member of the Legal Practice Council, Trudie Nichols. Good to have you. Thanks very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Mia.
I know that you obviously take the legal fraternity as a whole, but a lot of people sort of saw what happened last week and thought, okay, so it's just masters' offices that have closed, but what exactly are they? Perhaps you can help us with a little bit of an understanding as to what these masters' offices oversee and what they do.
Well, in the context of the Special Investigations Unit and the closure of the 15 offices, those offices dealt mainly with administration of deceased estates, liquidation of accounts, guardians fund and the like. And that is where largely you have an interface with the public, and that is also where it relates also to the kind of work that attorneys and advocates are sometimes involved in. So you do get an overlap there. It also involves trusts and liquidations, and automatically you think trusts, you think liquidations, you think of attorneys. You think the Master's Office, you think the High Court, you think attorneys. Yeah,
and it also working for orphans, for minors, for widowers. Does it also deal a lot with that?
To give you an example, in the context, for example, of road accident fund claims. You have a road accident fund claim on behalf of a minor, and a large amount of money is paid. The court will order that a trust is formed, and then the attorney involved in that matter will then have that trust registered. That trust is overseen by the Master of the High Court in one of those 15 offices. So that Master has to make sure that the trustees of that trust for that minor comply with all their obligations in terms of the Trust Control Act.
Yeah.
If the Master doesn't do that, then you run the real risk that the minor is the one who's going to suffer at the end of the day.
So basically what necessitated this was, and the Minister came, he made an announcement talking to allegations that an official from Mpumalanga basically got 1.7 million rand through fraudulent activities. So in general, we need to discuss fraudulent activities and the organization's reaction to all of this. It's not the first case. These things do unfortunately happen. But what kind of fraudulent activities take place in these institutions? And what should we as the public be aware of and vigilant when it comes to this?
So in the context of the issuance of our statement, it's largely to encourage members of the public to come forward to report any misconduct on the part of any legal practitioners.
Yeah.
You would have seen from the various media reports that have gone out about the actual raid, they refer to the members and officials of the Master's Office, who all fall under the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. So sometimes some of those positions, in order to be appointed to those positions, you have to be a legal practitioner. That doesn't mean that the Department of Justice's authority to discipline and regulate them is taken away. What will happen with those individuals is once they've been disciplined and the like, then they'll be referred to the Legal Practice Council, and we will take further steps in relation to that person's name being struck from the roll because of theft or fraud and the like. So in the context of the Master's Office, yes, for certain positions you do have to be an admitted attorney or advocate in order to be appointed to that post. So what you would have also seen in the media, and this is also the only information we have, which is what we've seen in the media as well, is there's allegations of people holding themselves out as being legal practitioners or advocates. So even in the likes of that, we don't know whether that's correct or not, but the extent that that investigation seems to extend to beyond just the interface with the public. It's also the actual administration and what goes on within the Master's Office. So that's all within the realm of the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. That does not concern the Legal Practice Council.
Indeed.
Our main concern is one of our objectives, which is set out in the Legal Practice Act, which is also to protect members of the public. So if members of the public have been using the services of what they believe is a legal practitioner, and they have not been getting the service that they should be, or they've been defrauded in any way, then that is what the purpose of our media statement is to come forward and to report that person to us.
How do you deal with them? When the public do come forward, they report these legal practitioners if they are suspected of doing fraud. How do you deal with them? What are the repercussions?
So, provided the person is a legal practitioner, then we have regulatory authority over that person. We have disciplinary processes that are followed. So, an individual just merely needs to come forward, lodge a complaint, and then that will immediately institute an investigation into the complaint. If after the investigation committee finalises the investigation and determines that this is a valid complaint and prima facie there is indications of misconduct, then it will go to a disciplinary hearing, which is made up of a panel of more than one person. If the legal practitioner is an advocate, there will be an advocate on that panel. If it's an attorney, there will be attorneys on that panel. And then the disciplinary hearing is held. The complainant is entitled to be at that disciplinary hearing. And if at the finalisation of that hearing, the legal practitioner is found to have committed misconduct, then there's various repercussions that follow. If it relates to monies in relation to the complainant, you can make that order that is repaid. If it relates to dishonesty and theft, then there'll be an application to the High Court for that legal practitioner to be suspended or struck off the roll of legal practitioners. But there's a whole litany of sentences that can be imposed on a legal practitioner.
And I imagine, that could be imprisonment, surely, if you are caught and been involved in crime or illegal activities as a legal practitioner. This could be you struck off the roll, and surely you could go through a court of law yourself and land up in prison if you are doing too many illegal activities.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Well, which brings me also back to the allegations about the alleged legal practitioners. Now, the Legal Practice Council doesn't have authority over fake legal practitioners. But it is an offence in terms of the Legal Practice Act to hold yourself out as a legal practitioner. And there's ways to find it out. So we have our website, and on our website, you can determine if the person that you're using is actually a legal practitioner because their names are reflected there.
Fantastic.
You will have access to our code of conduct, which sets out what the standards are expected for legal practitioners of professional practice and ethics and code of and ethical behaviour, and you can also access the area in all provinces where the local provincial council is and the manner in which you can lodge your complaint.
So you can see all the information there on the screen is info@lpc.org.za. Is that correct? Is that the right email address?
That's the email address, and you can go onto the website, which is www.lpc.org.za.
Excellent.
And on the website, you can access
You'll find
all the
everything
information
there. And you can also, if you have information and you would like to report somebody, can you go ahead and do it through the website as well?
You can do the website, or you can contact either the national office or a provincial council that's closest to you.
Excellent.
And we have one in all 9 provinces. So on the website, you will see where all the provinces' offices are and the contact details as well.
Trudie, thank you. Thanks very much for coming in and giving us that information. This was the Executive Committee member of the Legal Practice Council, Trudie Nichols, urging the public to report any misconduct by legal practitioners following the closure of the Master's offices last week as well. All right, let's go to Sakina. Sakina, what's up next?